It's the 400th issue of When Saturday Comes this month, and to celebrate it, because they're one of the iconic figures of the fanzine world and they're still going, it's a magnificent read. But to celebrate it, we thought we'd have a little look back about what's happened with our fanzine, Down for Merthyr, over the years. It's been 30 years plus now, and looking at some of the things we happened, some of the back issues, some of the reasons behind the fanzine. So bear with us for the next few minutes.
The fanzine movement wasn't just about publications though, it was more about reaching out to other fans as well and becoming part of a big network around the country. You know, I mean, it was a realisation that we had more in common than separated us. You know, it was a lot of divide and rule at the time by the government and the police authorities and that. But what we all discovered was that we were all the same, it's just we had wore different scarves on a Saturday. And I mean, so one of the things that came out of that was the football tournaments. Now, we took part in loads of those football tournaments, went up to Glasgow to the Ian Younger Sixes up at Queen's Park, the Chaos Cup in Leyton Orient. We went up to Peterborough to play football. We played up at West Brom. We played Wealdstone, Stafford Rangers. You know, we played a lot of football teams out there on a morning of a game or over a weekend, and you know, put Merthyr again on the map. You know, and from that, then the Down for Merthyr, the football team was formed, and we spent a good 10 years in the Rumney Valley Sunday League, being kicked around the park by Rumney Valley teams, which was a bit of an experience, but that was good fun as well because it kept everybody together. You know, the football club then had a team that represented its fans. Also, we had the darts teams, we had the quiz teams back in the day as well. So there was a lot of things that we were doing sort of on the periphery of the club that we hoped would be a benefit of the club, just making it more than a club. The fanzine also did some specials over the years as well. We did one special early on when we played Swansea away in the Welsh Cup, and it was Chris Olvey's testimonial year, so we did a sort of unofficial little programme to sell down at the Merthyr fans on the old West Terrace, only 20 pence each. You know, it was a bit of raise money for Chris Olvey because he was a legend and everything. And we went okay actually, until one of the Merthyr supporters told us they was on us, and we were told not to carry on selling. But that was an issue back in those days. It was a bit of a culture clash between the older generation and us. And to be fair, we played up to it as well, so we were no angels. But that was one special we did. And then the second one we did, which was really good and one thing we're very proud of, was the anti-racism one of the kick racism out of football days. We would always distribute a fanzine which was given to us. We did our own fanzine to wrap around it, and it was really good. It's really good. It's probably one of the best things we ever did. Really good stories about black players playing for Merthyr, playing for Wales and that, and it was a really, really good article at the time and a really good project we did. So that was really one thing we've really been proud of. Those early editions, of course, were done. We'd photocopy them somewhere, wherever we could, on the sly, you know, using people's photocopies and everything. And then they were done, you know, in the middle of my sort of front room, on the floor, collating them, long stapler, put them together. It would take hours of putting it together, and with a few volunteers at the time, roping my wife into it at the time. That was a highlight of her life, getting involved in collating a fanzine. But that's what we used to do in those days, until, as you said, we found Paul the printer, and he got us down and did it. I mean, the fanzine now is all sort of online and designed, and I said Mikey and Lager and the boys all sort of put it together and make it look a bit more better than. I think our fanzine was once called a sort of a church newsletter in one review, because it was a bit, you know, one-dimensional. But in those days, it was all about Pritt sticks and cutting things out and putting things together and everything. It really was sort of hands-on in those days. But now, you know, it's a design project now, and it looks a lot better. And some of the sort of the graphics in recently have been absolutely fantastic. We can't even claim the name of Down for Merthyr ourselves, actually. The name was brought up by some Sunderland fans. We'd gone up to Walsall to watch Sunderland play for some obscure reason back in the day. That was what it was like in those days. One of the boys passed the driving test. He all jumped in the car and went off to watch a football match. There was no tickets. The terraces were empty. So he just went to see a game. So we went and watched Sunderland when they filled the ground against Walsall. They lost, actually. And one of their lads came up with Dial M for Merthyr. So great title. So we've got the title. So what do we do next? So it was a question of just getting people together. And I just think at the time people were reticent to write things down, because, you know, most of the lads had been through school and stuff and were working in factories and different things like that. So me suddenly asking them to write an article on Merthyr or whatever was maybe a bit daunting, but we did it. We had a varied amount of people writing in. Brian James, Big Brian, did his Bop and Boogie column, which was his review of bands. But even that, if you look back now, you think that's a strange thing, but it wasn't at the time, because there were no music reviews of bands that we were seeing. And Brian was watching bands like the Pogues and the Men They Couldn't Hang and things like that. So even those articles were really important to us, because they were just what we were doing on the terrace at the time as youngsters, was what we were doing. But it was just important that we put those things across, as well as all the daft jokes and stuff about football matches, and away matches and what we were doing. It was really important for us to put things down. And once people saw their articles in print, I just thought it was amazing that people just realised that they could do this. And then we just went from there. Then it was just a easier ride from then on. By that point, at the end of the 80s, the fanzines were really out and about by then, and we were already picking up fanzines from other football clubs. I'd already picked up a fanzine in the Crass concert in Aberdeen '84. It was a music fanzines, and so that fanzine idea was always in the back of my head, because simple ideas didn't have to conform to any standards, really. Just put what your thoughts were down. Those were the punk fanzines looked like. And so, from the Crass concert, that was an early start. But obviously that's 5 years later, Dialing for Merthyr appeared, and there really wasn't an opportunity for us to put ourselves out there and to change people's perceptions of Merthyr. Not just Merthyr Football Club, just Merthyr as well. We've got the Curry guides and everything going through the years and everything. So but first of all, of course, how do you do it? How do you print it? Went to a printer's, way too expensive. So in the end, me and Rob Parker, with the help of the legendary Neil the Gate, snuck into the law courts in Merthyr one night. And all night we ended up photocopying this ragtag 30 pages of nonsense, and then we side stapled it all together, and that was the first fanzine. I think we sold it for 40 pence, which is a random number, and off we went. And the first sales we ever did was in August 1989, and it was bizarrely at an away friendly match at Britain Ferry. So there we were, me and Rob Parker, and probably Elby as well, wandering around with a box trying to sell these fanzines to Merthyr fans who didn't have a clue what was going on. But they all bought them because, it was that time of year. In 1989, the team were fantastic. We were going places. Things were happening on and off the pitch. So people bought the fanzine, and we went from there. The next one, issue 2, was much better printing. We had it done properly because we found a decent printer then locally in the town. And he sorted us out. He also sorted us out with the famous Funky Sheep logo, which we had on t-shirts then, when they did t-shirts. But because at that time we were swapping fanzines as well then, and so that was another thing for ourselves, because we were on the When Saturday Comes directory. Now the When Saturday Comes is the fanzine that has probably transcended all the decades now. I mean, this month now there's their 400th issue, and there's still a quality fanzine. If you really want to go and read a football magazine, have a look at When Saturday Comes. Fantastic writing. Always a little bit different how they put things together. Their wall charts, are fantastic for every football championship in the summer. They're really good stuff. Now they were in that fanzine. There was the listings, so we swapped with all different other fanzines. Hence the links we've got now with Orient, Queen's Park, Peterborough, West Brom in a day. We had these links with other teams then, which inspired us even further. So people would go and watch these matches as well. And so for young lads from Merthyr, who horizons were quite narrow at one point, it just opened up a different world for us to go out and visit other people, play football matches against other people. And it was just a really good opportunity for us to expand our horizons. And that's one of the big things that we got from When Saturday Comes, was those links into other clubs and into other clubs' reading as well. So, we did collaborations with Cardiff City, Watch the Bluebirds Fly. We did a bit with Jack Mail back in the day. Well, Peter Jones, excellent fanzine he did for Swansea. So these were big events for us because, we came from a non-league football club in the middle of the valleys, and suddenly we were, getting reviews in the Guardian and the Telegraph. Major events for us. So the fanzine was on sale in sports pages in London, which was sold all the fanzines. A day trip to London for any football fan in those days was go to see a game. Before you did, though, you went to Charing Cross, you went to sports pages and picked up as many fanzines as you could find to read these great magazines, iconic magazines. But I think the best magazines are always from the sort of smaller clubs. There's plenty of non-league ones, but like Journham's was the Brian Moore's Head looks uncanny like the London Planetarium. What a title that is. One of the best ones was a simple title, Brian from Nottingham Forest. That was one of the best fanzines out there at the time, and the girl Julie who did Brian is still writing. Well, she was writing recently for Bandy and Shinty, which is a sort of current fanzine from Nottingham Forest. So these links and these roots are deep within the football writing world, and I think we're still part of that. But that's where we were in the 80s, and off we went on an adventure, and printing the fanzine was the issue. Every month we were scrabbling around to find somebody to print it for us, and it wasn't until probably issue 7 or 8 that we got hold of Paul the printer, as we all call him, Paul Blueprint, who did all the fanzines in South Wales. Watchable Birds Fly, Your Blue Bit of Happiness, you name it, he did the fanzine, and he still is the printer, to be fair to him. Picks it up, or now we email it to him now, but in the old days we used to pick it up. Off he went and deliver it back to us in a couple of A4 boxes, and off we went. And that, I think without Paul's help we wouldn't have lasted this long, because individual printers were charging us extortionate money, but I think Paul just enjoyed the crack. She enjoyed doing all the fanzines, enjoyed all the meets up and everything. So, he kept us going right in those early days, but with his accessibility and of course his affordability, because he was dirt cheap. Because even at our peak, we were selling about 400, possibly 500 on good days for the fanzine. We're down to about 150, maybe 200 now, which is still pretty good for the crowds we get and everything. But it was never about the sales. It was about the profile. It was about us making a bid for Merthyr to be recognised as a unique football town, which it is. It's an oasis in a rugby desert, in effect. So that was a big event for us. So Paul, be fair to Paul, big shout out to Paul Blueprint. He kept us going. The front covers were the big thing as well. The front cover had to be good. And we got a few problems with front covers over the years. Towards recently, we've done it provocatively on purpose to make a point. Hence the issue 47 one with the Simon Ryan front cover. That's still a fantastic one, because at the time it captured the zeitgeist of what was going on in Merthyr with the chaotic scenes. But even going further back, we've had some good front covers. The Connors What's the Score one, with all the young lads on the front, all with their chippy jumpers and everything. That was voted the best fanzine front cover by a fanzine in Rotterdam. So you can see how our reach was so widespread at the time. The Tom Jones one, the Neil Kinnock one. We tried to keep it going and everything. We got into trouble a few times because sometimes we just couldn't think of a front cover, so we ended up putting a pretty girl on the front of it, and not exactly the most feminist idea we ever had. So we had a bit of stick about that, and quite rightly. So we've stayed away from those things from now on. But front covers were important, and still a few of them up in the clubhouse. Some of the great ones, the behind the fence ones. As I said, the issue 47. Some of those fanzine covers are, iconic, and they're something that's been handed down now from father to son. These fanzines, and they are a bit of a collector's item. Hopefully, if you got the full set, well done to you. Because I haven't even got the full set. I'm missing one or two, so we need to find those sometime. But yeah, the front covers were really important. They were the shop window, and they continue to be so. The responsibility for those front covers, of course, was with the editors. And now, I may have got this wrong, but I think we've had 4 editors in the fanzine. Obviously, one was me, Wolvesy, starting it. That was the start of it and everything. Then we had a little interlude with Rodri Gard took over. He did a couple of really good issues. To be fair to him, they were really probably one of the most best designed ones we did of the early lot. That was all down to Rodri, because he was in a bit of a whiz on the computer and everything. And then it was Typey. Typey was looking after it. We had a few controversial moments behind the scenes with some of the ideas coming in from Typey and people like Alex Edwards. So we kept the legal side of things sorted, but that was a risk. And then now it's Mikey Donovan. Mikey Donovan's the main man now, so he's got that print background, so it does look a little bit better. Plus, we've taken on people more youngsters have come forward and looking after us. But ostensibly, there's been like only 4 editors of the fanzine, and that's what's probably kept the standards going. Is that we all know each other, know what we want to do with it, and we don't take it too seriously. As for contributors, we've had so many contributors over the years, Merthyr fans, non-Merthyr fans, but we really have gone from a lot of people. We had some, I don't know if anybody remembers the old Noel Trustler. Old Noel, who was I think he was in Polytechnic in Treforest back in the day, and he was following us, and he did a rambling series of articles about Scottish football without Celtic and Rangers, which looking back now were bizarre, but they filled a couple of pages, so we were happy to take them. Now, he was nuts. He was a duty solicitor in Bury, of all places, and he was just writing articles for us because he remembered his Merthyr days and he enjoyed them, and he popped up in a few away games. I'm not sure where you are, Noel. If you're out there, give us a shout. But we've had loads of people out doing stuff. And what was good about the relaunch on issue 47 was that so many youngsters came forward, and we're quite happy to put some articles in. We've had some good poems, articles, pieces, and on some of the other lads one of the best things we've ever had out of the fanzine. I mean, John Owen, the director, always sort of name checks us, as for the start of when he's sort of getting his name out there, being sort of productive, being sort of creative. And I think his articles under the pseudonym Taffy Fox were right up there. We still use some of his stuff now. He's just a very creative guy. But recently, I think one of the successes we've had is that we gave a bit of a platform from John Smith, the same old Smith photography, which you've all seen. His photographs, his sort of fan photographs, because, that's what John was concentrated on, was the fan culture, the unique sort of terrace culture of non-league football, especially for Merthyr. The beers on the terraces, the carbon chips, all that stuff. And he's covered that brilliantly, and we've taken some of those photographs into the fanzine, and hopefully we've just helped him a little way now further into his career, because he's doing some great stuff. And again, hopefully he'll look back and think Dial M for Merthyr was one of the reasons I've made it to making a living out of photography, so another Merthyr lad does good. The next steps for the fanzine now, really, we need to keep it going. As and when we do, we don't take subscribers because we don't really know when we're going to do one from one moment to the next. So the next one will be next year at some point, issue 61. We'll still do the odd podcasts, and we'll still do the odd Dial M for Merthyr TV show, so that'll be still out there. The big project going forward now is to do a matchday radio programme. If we can get LB on the airwaves on a Saturday afternoon between 3 and 5 o'clock, I think we'll have the biggest viewing figures since Titanic. So, because LB's unique view of the world, let alone football, will be worth listening to. So that's the next thing, Dial M for Merthyr Radio. If we can get that off on a match day, then I'm sure you'll all be tuning into that one. But that's also something where, fanzines went from the printed word now, and it died a bit because of technology, because the immediacy of social media and the immediacy of television, blogs. So, but I still think the fanzines have a place. It's a bit like that news outlet Tortoise, where fanzine articles are better because they're sometimes better because they are hopefully more measured, and they are more a history of a time and place as well. You can look back through fanzine articles from way back to the mid-90s and stuff. You can actually place Merthyr in the context of the world at that time with some of the articles. So I think fanzines will always still have that. And plus also, I think just the tactile thing where fanzines, having a fanzine in your hand on a Saturday afternoon when you're on the way home after the game, sitting on a train, or you're on a bus, or you're back in the house with a mug of tea, you've read the programme. I know the fanzine is a nice little supplement to that. On some other views, a bit more closer to the bone, maybe a bit more provocative. Our views in the Welsh Premier League haven't gone down well with the majority of Merthyr fans, but we just thought it was, it had to be debated. Every case has to be considered. So these things will be going on. Dial M for Merthyr will still be around, but it's up to us now to make that adapt to the modern world. And as I said, radio stations, Dial M for Merthyr TV, just the blog ideas we have. These are things going forward that we're going to have to embrace and take on if we can maintain a sort of a fan's voice, a fan culture within Merthyr Football Club. We have, of course, appeared on TV a few times, on radio, representing fans' voices in just for Merthyr, not just Merthyr, for Wales sometimes. We were on the Slate if anybody remembers the BBC Wales Slate programme, which was the arts programme, when they came down and filmed us at an away game at Swansea City, back in, well, that must have been back in the early 90s, I suppose, where we filmed set in the fanzine, and some really good sort of shots there of our fans on the old West Terrace at the Vetchfield watching Merthyr play, and a few of our players making a few dodgy tackles. That's Mark Williams, I think, if I remember rightly. But it was good. It was quite an iconic one because it was again, it's another moment in time for us where you can look back and look at that match in the early 90s, the fanzine, yes, but it's the people in the crowd. You can pick yourself out. You can see fathers, grandfathers, and everything in that crowd. So it was important that we weren't getting that sort of coverage before, but suddenly we were, and that was through the fanzine and through the contacts we were making within the BBC when they were ringing us and asking us for quotes, and that's continued to this day, and we still do that. So, you know, if you want a quote, if you want some Valley's boy to be on your TV show talking about football, then give us a ring, because we're the ones to do it, and we're always quite happy to promote our town and our football club and Wales. That's what we've always done. So, on the occasion of the 400th issue of When Saturday Comes, big thank you from us down in Merthyr, everybody in Merthyr Town Football Club and all the fans, the Dial-In for Merthyr Boys, the Red Flag Martyrs, whatever you want to call yourselves. Big thank you to Andy Lyons and the boys up at London for inspiring us and keeping it going for us as well. I know there was other fanzines before yourselves and that, but as sort of the godfather of fanzines, big shout out to When Saturday Comes for all your help and your support, and long may you continue. Thanks.